guys, today we are going to be testing out the new Sugarpill capsule collection. I don't know why they don't just call it like the capsule palette #1 or something, because there wasn't a collection released with this palette, I don't think. Maybe I'm wrong. I'm not really sure, but today we're going to be testing out this palette. Now, I was so excited when I saw this being sneak peeked, and I actually talked about this with Kat and Haley on Beauty News. If you didn't see the episode that I was on, I will have that link in the corner, but we talked about this palette and we all had pretty different opinions, if you will, and I was one of the people who really liked this, and I liked the idea of this, and I thought that the whole concept was very unique, and I really like that they tried to do something a little bit different with the packaging without it still being bulky and like annoying, because I feel like this is very practical still, and even though the pants are different sizes, like that doesn't really bother me as much as it does with other palettes. I don't know, there's something about this that just kind of works for me, so I'm really excited to test this out. I will say my first impression when I opened this is that some of these pants are tiny. Like, there's not that much product in these little ones, which, yes and no, like, it's kind of annoying, but also I know I'm not going to get through them, but at the same time, I'm like, this palette was $42, so I just don't know how much product is really in here and if it's worth the money per se. And also a lot of these colors, especially the shimmers, are looking very bland. So we're gonna go ahead and swatch this and just kind of see what the shadows are looking like. And also, this color right here is a blush, so maybe before we do anything else, I'm gonna go ahead and use that as my blush because that is what it is intended for. That is a very, 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 very pigmented blush, which, I mean, to be fair, it is in an eyeshadow palette, so it kind of has to be pigmented, but that's beautiful. That's got a little bit of a sheen to it, and the color of that is really, really, really nice. See, I like that they made this a bigger pan because, you know, it is advertised as a blush, and I like that they put that in the palette because it's not like this is a face palette where there's a bunch of shades that are meant to be on the face that you can't use because it doesn't fit your skin tone. Because this is just a blush, you know, like obviously it can be used as an eyeshadow along with all of these other ones. So I like the idea behind that. I think that is really, really cute, and it's different. And it's not really something that I've seen any other brands do. So let's go ahead and swatch this palette just for fun so we can kind of see like how the shadows are really going to look and like what the formulas are like. Because looking at this, I'm a little bit confused because all I see is like 2 shimmers, and then there's a bunch of mattes that kind of have a little bit of glitters in them and just some mattes as well. So let's just go ahead and swatch it. I don't even know which order I'm going to swatch this in because they are so just weirdly arranged that I guess I'll go like this. Let's try that. So far, my first impression on like touching these shadows is that the mattes feel really, really nice and creamy, except for the blush, which felt a little bit drier, but that's probably because it's a different formula than the other shadows. The shimmers, this one up here is like a duochromy white lilac. It's not super shimmery, but it's a really, really nice, it has a nice shift to it. It would be a really nice inner corner shade. I don't think I would use that as like an all over the lid kind of shade. I feel like it'd be maybe a little bit sheer. These two needed a little bit of building up mattes wise, but that's totally normal with like kind of pastel-y mattes. The green shimmer did not swatch the best. I'm not like super impressed by that at all. This would also make for a beautiful blush, but this is like the tiniest pan of them all. I kind of wish that they made this pan a little bit bigger as well because that really would make for a nice blush color. The green swatched beautifully. I mean, that is one finger swatch. That is really nice. This kind of greeny gold shimmer swatched okay. It's a little bit crumbly, but it's definitely nice and pigmented, and I feel like that's going to look really nice on the lid. It's just a little bit messy in the pan. The purple swatch, like a purple usually do, is a little bit like, not patchy, but it like sticks to one spot and doesn't really want to like smooth out. This shimmer right here would probably be a really nice face highlighter. It's got a little bit of like a peachy shift to it. It's almost like a pink with a peachy shift, but it's very light. And this blue also swatched like those kind of blues normally do, a little bit dry, a little bit patchy. So we're gonna see how they apply on the eyes. I'm going to wipe these off. I'm going to prime with my, where are you, my Smashbox lid primer in light, and then we're gonna go ahead and create a look. I will say that the palette gets a little bit messy, and like when you get powder on the back side here, it's a little bit hard to remove because like the shadows are raised and this is like a plastic thingy. So when you kind of blow on it, like it doesn't all blow away, which not really that big of a deal. I don't care if my palettes are a little bit dirty, but I could see that being very annoying to some people if you are maybe a little bit OCD and you like things to be nice and clean looking. So I'm gonna go ahead and prime. I'm wondering if maybe I'll use one of these shades as my face highlighter as well, just to kind of try it out. So let's start off by seeing if I can use this as my face highlight. This one is called Dream State, so all of the names are on the back of the palette, which I get that because they can't really have it in the front because there's nowhere to really put it. Usually that would be a pet peeve of mine if there is actual room on the palette for the shade names to be, but since they didn't really have a choice, I don't really mind that they're on the back. It does mean that I'm not always going to say the color of it because I might forget and just point at it, but I feel like you'll still be able to see what I'm doing. So I'm going to take my Kaleidos S2 brush. This is a very small blending eyeshadow brush and just see if I can use this as my face highlighter. I'm not sure if this is going to work because it might be a little bit too dark for me to be a highlighter, but let's just go ahead and try it anyway. So far I think it's looking pretty good. It's definitely more of like a subtle highlighter, but I feel like it's a very wearable color and I feel like it's showing up a little bit lighter on my skin than it is in the pan. So I think that I could easily get away with wearing this as a face highlighter. It is picking up on my brush as an eyeshadow though, so it's a little bit like thicker in formula than a highlighter normally would be, but I feel like it's smoothing out very nicely on my face. It's definitely highlighting that pimple that I have up there, but it's fine. That's totally my own fault and I don't really care. Yeah, this is actually a beautiful, beautiful highlighter. I think that looks really nice and I love that blush as well. Like I could see myself reaching into this palette just for these two colors alone and not even use it on my eyes because those are stunning. So I think where I'm going to start is I kind of want to do something like in a blue family because I do want to try out both of the blue shimmers. So this one and this one as well. I want to try both of those. So I think I'm going to start by taking the dark blue and I'm going to put that in the outer corner of my eye because blues like this tend to be a little bit hard to work with. So just want to give it the best chance it has to not get patchy and not do anything weird. So I like to start with my blues first. So I'm packing this in my outer corner and I think I'm going to keep it mostly focused in the outer corner and then pull it through my crease just a little bit here. Maybe not even all the way because I don't want this to be like a super intense look. I want it to be more of like a watercolor painting kind of look, if that makes sense. So I'm gonna pull this in probably about 2/3 of the way here or so. So I think that laid down very nicely, but the trick with blues is to see how they blend out when you blend it out with something else on top. I'm going to take a little bit of this down to my lower lash line as well, just to kind of wrap it around here. Okay, so far so good. So what I'm gonna do next is I'm gonna go into this very, very pastel-y kind of lilac shade. It's called Baby Doll, and I'm going to use that to blend out this color with. I'm just going to wipe off my brush. I have a towel in front of me. That's how I color switch because it works just as well as a color switch and is a little bit gentler on my brushes. I found out when I was using an actual color switch, you know that little thingy that you have inside of a tin can that you swirl your brush into. Those things were just so hard on my brushes and I felt like I was destroying my brushes in the process. So I've switched to a towel for like the last year or so. So I'm going to take this color above where I put down the first blue and just use this to help with the blend a little bit. I'm not expecting this to show up like super well because it is such a light shade here, but I think it's going to just help the blend. And I'm probably going to have to go in with the other blue again just to build that up a little bit more after I'm done putting down this color. These two are looking so beautifully together though. I really like the combination of these two colors. Like I was saying before, I do feel like I need to go back in with the dark blue because it is kind of removing a little bit of the color when I go in with this one to blend it out, but that's very common with those kind of blue shades, so I'm not really surprised at all. I'm definitely pleasantly surprised by this shade though, because this is performing so well and is a lot more pigmented than I thought it would be. It's also sticking very nicely to my lower lash line here. So I would say so far we are off to a very good start with both of these colors, depending on how the dark blue is going to build back up again. That's always the issue that I feel like I have with dark blues, is that they're fine like if you put them down as the first color, but then sometimes when you go in and you start blending them and building them on top of things, they just don't really stick that well. But I have high expectations because I have had very good luck with Sugarpill's formula in the past. Now, I don't own a lot of things from them. I only have the fun size palette, but I really like that palette. And I feel like if I like that palette, I'm probably going to like this as well, because this has kind of like the same, not the same tones, but it's a lot of like lighter shades and some pastels and stuff, and I like the formula that they have in the other palette. I mean, you can't look at this and tell me that this shade is not beautiful, because that looks so good. I'm gonna dip back into the dark blue, and these shadows are very, very, very powdery, so I feel like I would go through both of these very quickly because they are both like the smallest pans in the palette. And I feel like I'm probably going to hit pan on these today. I mean, not really, but like kind of not kidding. And these are building very, very nicely. I am so pleasantly surprised. I'm always surprised when I find a blue that performs well, and I feel like this is doing exactly what I wanted to do here. I'm going to take a little bit of this on my outer portion of my lower lash line as well. So it took a little bit of time to get this built up, but it definitely built very nicely, and I don't feel like I'm really seeing any kind of patchiness or anything like that. So far we are off to a great start. I'm next going to go into the turquoise shimmer here, which is called Cloud 9, and I'm going to give that a quick spritz of some Fix Plus here. I'm using my MAC, what are you, 239S brush, as a very random name. And I'm basically just going to put that all over my lid except for the inner corner, where I'm going to leave a little bit of shade for that very, very light kind of lilac-y white shade, which is kind of like a duochrome. Okay, this looks really nice. I feel like this is looking a lot nicer on my lid, especially foiled, than when I swatched it, because when I swatched it, I definitely wasn't very impressed by this color, but going on the eyes, I think this looks really, really pretty. So I'm just blending this into the outer corner of my eye here. Just very gently. Again, I don't want this to look like a cut crease, so I am going to sort of blend it into my crease a little bit as well, just by using tapping motions with my brush. I'm then going to go into this color right here, which was called Supernova, and I'm going to put that in the inner portion of my lid here where I don't have any color yet, and in my inner corner I'm just going to blend that into the blue. And I didn't spray this, I just wanted to see what it would do if I didn't spray it, because I do want this to be more of like a soft inner corner, at least when I'm blending it into my crease here. So I would say the formula on this shadow is definitely not my favorite. It's a little bit just like powdery and dry, and it's not very shimmery. I'm going to go ahead and spray it in a little bit just to see if we can get it to be a little more intense just in the inner portion of my inner corner here. But so far it's definitely not my favorite kind of formula, if I can say so myself. Let's just go ahead and give this a quick spritz here, and I'm also going to go back in with the mattes that I have in my crease one more time. Okay, so that looks so much better when you spray it. Like, you can really see the shift in that shadow. Okay, maybe I take back what I just said, because that made a huge difference, and it really just goes to show that like using different techniques with different formulas, and just in general, like if you really want to intensify something, using them wet, shimmers that is. I don't think you could do that with mattes. I've never tried, but I can't imagine a matte performing very well wet. But if you want to really amp up your shimmers, either spray them with some kind of setting spray or even water, or use a glitter glue or some kind of a glitter primer underneath, and they're really going to pop. But that looks really, really nice. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just quickly go back over it with all of the mattes here, just to make sure that everything is blended the way that I want it to be. So I'm going to go ahead and finish off with my eyes. So I'm going to do something in my waterline, some eyeliner, mascara, pick a lipstick, and then I'll come back and we can talk a little bit more about this palette, because I definitely do have some additional thoughts that I feel like I haven't really spoken about yet. So let me go ahead and do all that, and I'll be right back. Here's the look all done. So for my eyeliner, I used the LA Girl Shockwave Neon Eyeliner in the shade Fresh. I love this eyeliner so much, and it's like perfect color to go with my lid shade. And then for lips, I used Oh Snap by Colourpop. This is one of the matte lippy sticks, and I feel like this goes really nicely with the look. So as for my thoughts on the palette, let's see, how many shades did I not use? I guess I didn't use any of the greens or this purple, but I feel like I used the other ones. Maybe I didn't use that one. But I would say I used like a good majority of the shades. Obviously, this is just a first impression. But so far, I would say that I think the mattes perform really, really well. They are buildable, but I don't think I would build too many colors on top of each other, if that makes sense. I would kind of limit it to like 2, because I feel like any more than that is going to be a bit of a problem to be building too much. The blush shade, I really, really like that. I think that is so beautiful. I love the finish of it. I love that it's not just like a complete matte. I feel like it's leaving a little bit of sheen on my face, even though in the pan and in my swatch it looked completely matte, but I feel like on the face, I don't know, there's something about it that I just really, really like. It just makes me have like that nice flush of pink cheeks, and I love that. As for the shimmer formula in this palette, it's definitely not my favorite. I have a lot of really good shimmers in my collection, so I'm very picky when it comes to shimmers, and I know I say that over and over and over again, but I would say that these are just like kind of in the middle for me. Like, they're not super intense, they're not super foiled. They do look nice, the colors are pretty, but they're not my favorite. This one is a little bit weird. Like, I feel like I've seen a lot of these kind of formulas lately where it's kind of like, it's a little bit powdery, but it's also a little bit sheer, and it's like a duochrome. Like, I've seen so many of those colors lately, and I don't love that formula personally. I do think it looks really nice in the inner corner, but I don't think that I could use that shade anywhere else, if that makes any sense. So for me, it's not a very versatile kind of formula, but I do think that it goes with like the color scheme in this palette, and I do think that it has a place in here, but I wish that this was one of the smaller pans and that some of the mattes were a little bit bigger, because I feel like with shimmers, you're going to use a lot less of them than you are of a matte if you're using a matte in your crease and such. I don't know, I just feel like with mattes, it usually takes a lot more dipping into the pan, and like you're using more product because of how powdery the product is, so you're also going to go through it a lot quicker than you would with a shimmer, because a shimmer isn't going to just like poof up in the air and like fly everywhere, and you're not going to waste any product. So I kind of wish that it was the opposite, in that the shimmer pans were maybe the smaller pans and the mattes were a little bit bigger. That could just be me though, I don't know, maybe let me know what you would think about that. I feel like I've never really had to think about that before, because other times like all the pans are the same size. So now I'm kind of like thinking about like how would I have done this differently if it was me, you know? But I would say overall I like this palette. It's, like I said, not my favorite just because of the shimmers aren't really all that. But I do think that it's a very, very fun and different and unique color story, and it definitely leans more on like the softer side, I would say, even though some of these colors maybe look a little intense. But I think that these are going to make very like ethereal and nice and soft looks, and I'm excited to play more with this. I feel like I'm going to be able to get some really like pretty looks out of this. I wouldn't say that this is like an editorial palette by any means or anything like that. I think that a lot of people would probably look at this and be a little intimidated, but I think that you could get a lot of very wearable and pretty looks out of this palette. So let me know if you want to see more looks with this. I do have other things lined up that I'm going to be filming more looks with first, so it might be a little while, and I need you guys to really tell me if you want to see more looks with this, because I just don't have time to do multiple looks with every single palette that I get anymore. It's just not how it is, so I'm going to go by which ones get the most requests to do more looks with. So if you want to see more looks, do let me know. If you don't tell me, I'm probably not going to do it, and I'm sorry in advance, but that's going to be my first impression thoughts. I don't want to call this a review, even if it might end up being the only video I make with this. I can't really tell for sure now because I need to see how things develop. But yeah, that's going to be it for today's video and me testing out the new Sugarpill palette. Let me know if you have this palette, what you think, and all that stuff. And if you want to see some other first impressions that I've done lately, here's a couple more that you can click on. And if you're new, I would love it if you would consider subscribing, and I will see you in my next one. Bye!